Hello, welcome to Courtney Has Podcast. I guess my Substack website still says Liberation Lifestyle Podcast, but it's Courtney Has Podcast now. And I'm coming to check in. It's been a minute. I did forewarn my audience and let them know that, especially in the beginning, I'm going to be on here when I can. And I'm so glad I said that. I'm thanking my past self because it has just been such a whirlwind of a time in my life. I want to just catch you guys up a little bit. Um, I started a new job in the beginning of May, which has been a dream come true. I am working for an organization that I care about a lot, that I've cared about a lot for a long time. And so I guess I'm gonna tease you with that and then clarify about like details, like how much I can say. And, I'm sure there's a lot of opportunity to talk about this new job that I have, I believe, but I wanna make sure I'm going through the proper channels to make sure that is okay. Um, I am just I'm happy. I'm working really hard right now, but I'm taking care of myself a lot better. That's the work, right? Like I'm doing all the maintenance things. We are in Gemini season. Um, I can speak for myself as a Leo rising that Pluto is currently retrograde right now, of course, in Aquarius, my seventh house. So that's been really interesting as far as like relationships and stuff. And also, Mars is in Taurus, which is my 10th house. There's a lot of changes going there. Uranus is in my 11th house with Gemini. Um, things are things are changing. We are like definitely in a big season of change. I feel like we're in the beginning stages of so much. It's still time to dream, but I believe especially with Saturn and Neptune and Aries right now, we're going beyond dreaming into some movement, like some steps, some planning, some those shaky first steps. Like that's what's coming to mind. So it's like when you in any birth, like we are right now in the birth of a new time, new chapter in human history. Like we truly are in every metric. Like it doesn't matter if you're into astrology or human design or um any of that stuff. It's pretty clear that this is a new chapter. We're about to celebrate the 250th um, birthday of the United States. So that in and of itself is marking a new chapter. And at the beginning of anything new, there is a shakiness, there is a tentativeness, there is a lot of opportunity for making mistakes, a lot of opportunity for saying the wrong thing, missing a step, being unprepared for the impact of a decision that you're making because it's just starting. And I feel like that's what I'm experiencing. That's what I feel like a lot of people in my life are experiencing. Um, and There's also a lot of wrap up happening. It's just that time of year. It's the summer. I'm a mom, so we're at the end of the school year. So I have people in my house preparing for end of grade testing. I have people in my world experiencing like it's like review time. It's a year marker, anniversary for their job, and so there is also this opportunity to reflect. I myself have been reflecting a lot. Um, and so it's like it's really interesting. We're not in the middle. It's just that you can be more than one thing. I don't know if anybody um has little people in their life or is just a child at heart and watched Daniel Tiger. My daughter my firstborn loved Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood so much I cannot explain to you. And I loved it too because it was so beautifully emotionally intelligent. It was just such an emotionally intelligent show. And one of the episodes they talked about how um you can have a lot of feelings at once. Like you can be happy and sad at once. You can be angry and sad at once. You can be um excited and nervous, all these things, and you can be more than one thing at one time. And I feel like this is a time, it's Gemini season, so it makes sense, with the twins as the symbol that you can be more than one thing right now. You can feel you can be in a place where you're completing one thing and starting something else. You can be in a place where you're reflective about some old decisions as you are in the process of making new ones. Um, and yeah, so there are a lot of people in my life who are finding themselves in that space. I'm finding myself in that space. Um, and so another thing I want to do is there's been like so many pop culture things I've wanted to comment on that I have just completely missed the boat. It's a part of my lifestyle. It's a part of how I move that I like to kind of wait for things to be kind of wrapped up and a bow put on them. Something to come into the collective conversation or a collective conversation, which I think is a healthier way of saying it nowadays, since the algorithm is putting us in multiple types of collectives. But so a collective space, seeing a story break, rise, um, and then resolve, right? On the other end. I love that. That I like to watch that process. And one of the things that I've been really wanting to talk about is Kev on stage. And um he was on a podcast. I believe it was Cam Newton's podcast, but I could be wrong. But he was on a podcast and he was discussing his journey in understanding queerness as as a Christian person. And it was such a fascinating story to watch unfold because it illustrated, in my eyes, as someone who works closely with, like I work in the inclusion and diversity and equity and justice space. I'm a consultant in that space. I am very passionate about solidarity work and allyship work and all of those things that entail people who are different from each other coming together to support um, the causes and the realities that connect us all. And so Kev on stage is speaking about his journey in understanding what the LGBTQ community really is, who these individuals in this community are, and um, what does that mean as a Christian, especially someone on the outside. So this is obvious. This is not someone who's queer, or at least they've not said that. This is a Black heterosexual man, married with kids, older. Like I don't know exactly how old Kev is. Like Gen X, no, definitely not a boomer. Maybe Gen X, maybe older millennial, but I don't think so. And someone who grew up in a very religious setting in the church. And he came out and kind of explained the arc of his of going from someone who had a very fundamentalist um idea of what it meant to be queer in the eyes of God. I'm sorry, I have fruit flies. It's just that time of year. It's that time of year, fruit fly season. Um, and what he believes now. So, like growing up as a child, as a teenager, as a young person in the Black evangelical church, a space that is simultaneously can be very homophobic. I think it's very important to state that a lot of these spaces in churches, not all churches, but many, many churches, especially when they include non-denominational or evangelical in their name, or even when they don't, like even some of the mainstream spaces can be very homophobic, while also, um, at the very least, they are benefiting from the creativity and the beauty of queer people. Um, and at the worst, they're exploiting the the talents of the queer folks in their congregation that they know are there, but refuse to encourage um, as their full selves, as, encourage them to be their full selves because it goes against what the established dogma is of many, many evangelical churches. And so he talks about how he came from a place of like, absolutely not, all queerness is wrong, to more of a quote, and I put in air quotes here, so anybody listening, this is air quotes, love the sinner, hate the sin type of outlook. And now he is in a place, so we're talking about beginning, middle, end. The beginning was hate the sinner and the sin with quotes around it, like these people are bad, they need to stay away from me, they need, God does not like, queerness or whatever, into more of like, oh, God loves everyone, which is extensively recorded in the Bible. But there's an asterisk there. Um, to now in a place where he's literally saying, I not only do I not fully understand how this whole thing works as far as like how they relate, but I'm questioning a lot of things when it comes to the dogma and the doctrines that I was raised on as a Christian, still someone who professes being a Christian, but feeling like maybe all the things that they were taught isn't the whole story, or maybe it's the story told in a really distorted way, and that they are reckoning with these questions that are arising, which includes not feeling like there is any sinning going on whatsoever. Um, he also, I think, got to a place where he compared his own sinfulness, quote unquote, to that of others, and saying that it's unfair to rank um rank wrongness, rank wrong. That is unfair to judge when you have a plank in your own eye kind of idea. Um, and so that's kind of what he said. That's the gist of what was said during this interview. And the fallout was swift and it was loud. It was very fascinating because there was definitely the churchy Christian side of his audience, because if you aren't aware of Kev on Stage and his work, he is a comedian, but he works predominantly in church spaces. And his comedy um, is often the church is often a subject matter for his comedy. And he's so he's in churches a lot. That's a large amount of his audience, and a lot of folks who come from that space were really, really, really angry with Kev, um, regarding the loosening of his hold to those old doctrines, when it came to the topic of queerness. Um, and were very angry with him, like, "You are going down the proverbial slippery slope with your language there, mister," on one side. And then on another side, where because Kev has reached a certain level of like mainstream, like he's on like Spectrum commercials now, and um he was sitting courtside with his wife at a WNBA game. So he's like on national television often. And he has a humongous following online. He has several podcasts. So he's reaching this point of saturation in his reach to where has a growing audience of folks outside of the church space. And not just outside of the church space, but kind of like people who are deconstructing or people who were raised in the church who are now no longer a part of that space. Um, and folks that are queer and out, and that's a part of not only their personal identity, but is a part of their persona. It's a part of their outward expression. They are outwardly queer. And a lot of folks were very hurt and disappointed that Kev would ever put the words queer and sin in a sentence together for any reason whatsoever and have it published out into the world. Um, and I was I said some things online, you can find it, that were um that were taken a lot of different ways, mainly because I was misreading and this person was also does not know who I am. These are two internet strangers talking to each other about things. And but what was very clear was the emotions ran really high with the reactions on both sides. And here is my takeaway, because I've wanted to talk about this for a while. Here's my takeaway. It's from someone, especially in the DEI and IDEA and Jedi space, all those different acronyms for basically the same thing, is being an ally is not easy. Um, and that is a really important part of being an ally. If it's easy for you as someone standing in solidarity with a marginalized identity, especially if you have a marginalized identity and you are standing alongside others with a marginalized identity, that is it can get emotionally very challenging for you. And I think that this is a really, really important lesson to learn, that everybody's not going to like what you're saying all the time on either side. Like the people who share your identity, the more privileged side of your intersectional identity might look at you as a traitor for your position on something, while the folks that you are attempting to stand alongside look at you and they say you are not doing enough, and actually you're being harmful to our cause, and um you need to make it right what you've done because you've hurt us and you've caused harm. This is really normal when it comes to allyship, and I think that and what I really love is at the end of this, that who there were people who came alongside um Kev on in from both camps. Not that they aren't mixed, because there are many, 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 many queer Christians, many, 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 many queer Christians. But this was, like you had the really churchy crew that's still in it, still doing it, still preaching, still making gospel music, whatever, whatever, who came alongside Kev and said to their crew, like, this is kind of like family business. Christian to Christian, this guy is the real deal. He's doing the work. He is faithful. And this is this conversation that he had is a reflection of his faithfulness in his belief. It is not a um reflection of him wavering as a believer. It's him being a believer, which is wrestling with what's true and what's not, what's going to help me be more like Christ and what's not. Um, and then there were folks from the LGBTQIA plus community who came alongside and said, listen, Kev is a friend. He was trying to explain his story and his experience, and that is not how he feels about us anymore. Um, and that is another part of it. But I want to make something really clear that you can't get, as an ally, you can't get to that place where people rally around you to support you until you've risked it all by standing alongside them first. As an ally, as someone from a privileged position, standing in solidarity with those who have intersectional identities that are oppressed and um, exploited and harmed by our systems, our, you know, patriarchal, racist, misogynistic, capitalist systems here in this country. Um, you're never really going to know where you stand with anybody if nobody really knows where you stand and if nobody really knows who you are. Part of standing with, part of being an ally, part of being a um, advocate, part of being a comrade, um, is to make statements like that, is to do exactly what Kev did and to risk what he risked to tell his own truth, to be vulnerable about his own experience and his own truth and his own journey. That is imperative when it comes to being an ally. A real true advocate is you have to risk your standing with both groups to say, this is a journey of how I got here. I haven't always been with y'all. And these are the reasons why I was taught not to, or felt like it wasn't um a good position to take, but now I know better, and I'm going to be very honest about what that journey was, and I am going to risk the conflict that will inevitably come from speaking the truth. Um and that risk that he took, it gained the attention of those who um, are closest to him, who know him as a person. It gained a lot of attention. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people were talking about it. This was definitely a moment in a very particular collective, predominantly Black and Brown folks who have had a Black church experience or who have had a church experience. And either that experience is still ongoing and something that they're extremely invested in to the point of being very dogmatic and honestly quite prejudiced against people who do not have a lifestyle like theirs, all the way to folks who honestly have never been to church, but they are people of color and they are queer and they know of Kev on stage. They've kind of seen him in spaces that straddle that fence, or not straddle a fence because there's no fence, but that are like in all the in between the spectrum of spaces because Blackness is such a gorgeous spectrum of spaces that are religious, spiritual, non-religious, spiritual, like a comedy club where you end up breaking out in total praise by, Richard Smallwood because that's just how we are. Um, and was impacted was impacted by the secondhand trauma of being told that there was something wrong with who they are, and it reminded them of all the times that they were told that there was something wrong with who they are. And so people are going to have emotions. People are going to have feelings about what you're doing when you're doing the work. People may react to your solidarity in a lot of different types of ways. And your solidarity may have to adjust according to your like goal and aim, which I believe for Kev is to reach as many people as he can with joy and with love and with the truth of our that we are all created to be the best of who we are. And and so he had to take that. He had to take those licks from all sides. He had to go back to the people that he has actually built relationship with, not the parasocial social media collective that we all experience now, but the people that are truly in his life. He had to go back to them and say, like, tell me where we're at. Like, tell me where I'm at. Look at me and what's happening here. And I don't know, there's something about Kev right now that feels like back and better than ever. People know where you stand. People know where he stands. There's something really powerful about people knowing where you stand, particularly when you claim to be an ally. It is really important that you go out of your way to help people know where you stand. And that can look like, the very kind of cliche Thanksgiving table situation where a family member says something that's racist or misogynistic or homophobic, and um you make a statement to show that what they said is not okay. And it can be something as big as what Kevin did, and you're on an interview and you're like, look, this is the truth. This is where I've come from. This is what I know now, and this is what I don't know. And I don't know, and I'm still grappling, but I do know that I love people a lot. And I love all the different ways in which people come and how they present and how they move in the world and I'm still trying to figure out what that means as a someone who professes to be a Christian. I think that was something that was so honest and beautiful about that moment. And you can't control how your truth hits people. Um, and that's for everybody. But it is our birthright and our responsibility to self-express and be our unique selves. Um, And communication is a big deal. Like, I think this all comes down to communication, and so much of our communication happens by hearsay nowadays. Like, I would be really curious to know of all the people who cast judgment on Kev, not cast judgment, but had an emotional response to Kevin. I wonder how many of those people were having an emotional response to the most recent interview where he speaks of his journey, past interviews where he's spoken of his journey, or are they clips of interviews, or are they clips that have been reposted from other people, or are they comments on clips that have been reposted by other people, and there's no connection or trail. I was literally just watching House Guest, um, which I love that show with, oh God, and now I'm gonna look up his name because I have to say it out loud. He is such an inspiration to me. Um, but I was just watching House Guest, and hold on, because I'm gonna find his name. What's his name? He's so Scott Evans. Scott Evans, House Guest. He was on Access Hollywood. Now he has his own interview show. A Girl Can Dream. A Girl Can Dream. I love his show so much. But Quinta Brunson was on House Guest. That's I think the most recent episode, which is a phenomenal episode. And she says people on the internet just be making up shit. And they really do. They really do. And I'm not saying that there was anything about Kev that was made up, but what I am saying that it was so fragmented that I think it's a cautionary tale. You know, Pluto's in Aquarius right now, and it's retrograde. And I feel like, you know, for all my astro um people that listen, with the sun in Gemini and with Pluto in Aquarius right now, communication in technology is like under review. It is something that we have, that we use, that we're empowered to use, but we also are like in a place where we're reflecting on, is is this helpful? Is the way that I'm using this world, this technology to communicate with my community, with the collective, um, am I actually getting my point across? Am I actually reading the truth? Can I trust what I see? Is the person that I'm talking to even the person that they claim to be? These are all really, really important questions to be asking right now. Like, where is the information that I'm reading coming from? Do I know this person? Like, can I trace back? Is this someone that I actually know or am aware of? And not to say you have to know someone in order to trust what they're saying, but I think the question needs to be asked, because then at that point, another spectrum opens up, right? If you're like, no, I don't know who this is. I've seen what they are, what they have posted, or this is an actual clip from the interview or from the show or what have you, whatever it is. But um, can I like go back and watch the whole thing um to get some clarity? Does this person have any clarity, or are they just posting a clip? Like, did they watch the whole thing? Um, did they actually read an article? Is that an actual article that is attached to that hyperlink? Because the word article is tossed around a lot. And I'm not saying this as like an elitist former journalist. I'm saying this as someone who is really seeing a trend of like AI generated, um, a lot of AI generated websites that seem to be like publishing articles, quote unquote, or blog posts. I'll say posts. They are publishing posts based on like SEO, like search engine optimization. And so, like, what you're reading is basically like exactly what you want to find, but it was generated by your search request. I don't know. Somebody tell me if that's real or not. But I have seen a trend of like these very, very, very shallowly written, obviously AI generated articles that really don't have any real information to them. They don't really have any references. There's no interviewing. There's no expert that they're talking to. It's just like kind of like very shallow persuasive essays that pop up when I ask my search engine a question. Like when I put something in a search engine. So what I'm trying to say is we gotta be a little bit more like analytical. I think sometimes we gotta let ourselves feel our feelings, but we gotta own our feelings as our own feelings. Like if you're having an experience, like that is valid, and that is something that is worth taking a beat to get curious about when it comes to your feelings. And then there's the other side, which is the information, whatever activated those feelings. That is its own curiosity. Maybe it's worth going down the rabbit hole just a little bit, just to see if you can find some primary sources, some original content, some like interviews, some context somewhere, you know what I mean? Before you allow yourself to get so emotionally invested. Because our attention is precious. Our attention is finite. We can't pay attention to everything. We can't feel all the things all the time because then that becomes long-term stress on the body. And we know all that stuff about the nervous system and cortisol. And we know all this. We know all this. But I'm talking about like how we move day to day, how we move inside of our day, especially on social media, especially when we are communicating with each other on social media through the replies, through the comment section, through all of that. Um, it's important to be present. Remember where you are and what you're doing. You're on the internet interacting with strangers. And even if you're a fan of the stranger, and even if that stranger is real and you know they are, and you've been following them for years, it's still a parasocial relationship. You do not know this person, and this person does not know you. Um, And so from there, owning your own feelings and impressions, and if harm was caused, to tend to yourself and give yourself the space to reflect and heal that you deserve as a human being who's been hurt, because you deserve that, while also looking at the source of the activation and being a little bit more analytical about, is this what it seems to be? Is this what it seems to be? That is the question that we're asking right now. Um, it's a very important question to be asking right now. Is this what it seems to be? Um, so I think that's it for now. I want to start interviewing people, so comment below to hop on that train. Um, I will pop up soon, hopefully sooner than later, because I love it here and I love podcasting and chatting. I have so many wonderful plans for this podcast. I was just admonished again for like the third or fourth time that I need to do this. And I do need to do it because I want to, because I love it. So yeah, I think that's it. Have an incredible week, and I will see you soon. Thanks for listening.